Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon everyone. In this video, we will explain and discuss about the basic concept tax gatherers and tax collectors. So here you out.
So, hi everyone. The first material that we gotta discuss for today is about how to pay tax and gotta be explained by me, Lady Lydia. Uh, yeah. By the way, I just want to tell the TMI or too much information. I'm using rupiah or dollar, but if you want to pay in dollar, the taxpayer must convert the payment to currency using the exchange rates that are already declared by the Minister of Finance. And there are several methods about how to pay your tax if you are the taxpayers. And there are several ways to pay the tax. The first one, the taxpayer is the one pay it by yourself directly. There are two methods. Well, the first one you can do it installment atau ngangsur, and the second one you just pay the semuanya. And the second one, pemungutan pajak by the third parties. Third parties that I talk about is like pemberi pajak atau pemberi kerja atau the other parties that already appointed by the government. The third one, they can pay their tax even if they are still in abroad or outside Indonesia. And the fourth one is the collection of the tax can be collected by the seller of the party, like the government treasurer. And the other kind of tax like PBB or BPHTB or pembayaran bea perolehan hak atas tanah bangunan, that which means you need to pay about for the buildings that you owned, or pembayaran bea materai. And yeah, you can pay tax using manually. Manually means you need to teller in your bank or ATM. You can use your mobile or internet banking. And even manual or even you make the e-billing. So what is the benefit of line methods? Of course, you can pay the tax and use your mobile phone or your laptop. It means they are paperless and you are go green. And there's no need to queue, which means it's faster, easier, and more convenient method, like what I said before, internet or mobile banking, and local mini mart, like Indomaret or Alfamart. Uh, by the way, there are 50 wrong entry at the counter or the teller. And using online methods, the web pair are doing self-entry. So it's eliminated most of the entry error.
So I want to tell a little tutorial about using e-billing. First, you need any device, either it's a tab, a laptop, or your smartphone, as long as it's connected to internet. And then you need to go to site pajak.co.id and click login. After that, you need to fill the taxpayer identification number, password, and security code, and click login. And you will be directed to DJP online homepage. Click the pay account and then click e-billing. Your NPWP data, name, and address will be filled automatically, and you just need to fill the type of tax, deposit type, tax period, tax year, deposit amount, and description. After that, click Create Billing. If there is any error in filling and in the billing code or the validity period expires, the billing code can be regenerated. And you need fill in the security code, and you will see the preview of your fill. And before you print, make sure that the field that you already filled, there is nothing such an error. And then for pay, you can pay using the selected ID code that has been printed or downloaded to make tax payment within a short period of time. And then you just need to go to the teller or ATM, or just pay it with SMS or internet banking. If you are late for paying the tax, they will give you some kind of punishment. The first one, the fine for late reporting of SPT for individual taxpayers, it's 100,000 per SPT for the tax period. The second one, the fine for late reporting of SPT for corporate taxpayers is 1 million per annual tax SPT. The third one, administrative sanctions for value-added tax SPT for the amount of 500,000 per tax period SPT and 100,000 for the SPT with the other periods. And the last one, the penalty for late payment of taxes is 2% per month from the time the tax fees have not been paid. The penalty for late payment of taxes has a time calculated from the due date to the due of payment of the tax. If you are late in paying from the deadline, the penalty payment count is calculated as 1 full month. That's all from me, and the presentation gonna be continued by Ara.
Place and means of taxes payment. The implementation of tax payments or deposits can be made to the state treasury through service at the counter or teller, or using other electronic system at perception banks, perception posts, perception foreign exchange banks, or foreign currency perception banks. Places for payment or deposit of taxes can be made at the post office, state-owned enterprise banks, regional-owned enterprise banks, and other places of payment appointed by the Minister of Finance. Tax payments and deposit are made using a surat setoran pajak atau tax payment letter or other administrative means that are equated with the SSP. Tax payments and deposit include income tax, value-added tax, sales tax on luxurious goods, stamp duty, and PBB.
Hello guys, I'm Kalina. In this video, I want to share to you about SSP or Surat Setoran Pajak. In English, you can say it as tax payment slip. SSP can be meant as evidence of payment or tax deposit that has been made using the form or in other ways to the state treasury through the payment appointed by the Minister of Finance. One SSP form can only be used for one type, one period, and one slip. One type can mean that one SSP form can use for one type of tax only. The second is one period in one fiscal year or part of one fiscal year, and then one slip that only. So it can be concluded that one SPA form can only for one tax assessment letter or one land and building tax assessment letter. Basically, SSP has 4 copies. The first copy is for taxpayer as a key for taxpayer. The second for KPPN for the State Treasury Service Office, and the third KPP so taxpayer reported the third copies to the Service Office tax, and the fourth is Pays Office for the archive of the Pays Office. Maybe you pay it by the bank, so this is for Pays Office. Then, if you need it too, you can have a fifth copies for other parties. This is the example of SSP. This is the first set of tax payment slip. This is the difference between another copies. The first is for wajib pajak, KPPN, for KPP, and pay service. So the only difference you can find is in the header next to the title. To fill SSP, first you should fill NPWP. If you don't have NPWP, and if you want to pay for business entity, this is filled with 10 code blah 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 blah. Then for personal taxpayer, you fill NPWP by 04 blah 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 blah. X is written with the taxpayer's KPP code number. This is the name of taxpayer, address of taxpayer should completely with ID card or their valid identity. This is an OP, alamat OP. This is complete only if there are transactions related to land and or buildings, transaction on transfer rights of land or building, and self-construction activities. So if you don't have transaction related to this, you can next to code and description text. This is for code and description. Kode jenis setoran, you should fill this by correctly and completely. So the tax obligation that have been paid can be administered properly. This is period and determination. If you want to pay 1 full year, you can pay it by given X in month. And this is you should fill by the year of tax that you want to pay. So if you want to pay a half year, you can make an X in the month that you want to pay. Determination number only fill when you have STP, SKPKB atau SKPKBT. So the payment amount, jumlah pembayaran, you fill with this with rupiah currency, and this is you make with a number. Then the terbilang you fill by the alphabet, and you should make it a currency, rupiah currency too. Payment of tax using US dollar for taxpayers who are required to pay tax in US dollar to be filled in completely up to cents. So you make a detail if you are required to pay tax in US dollar. If you're not required to pay tax in dollars, so you should pay it in rupiah currency. Evidence of payment is you should fill with the date of you pay, where the place, your autograph, your stempel, and your name. This is filled by kantor penerima pembayaran that consists of the date, the stempel, and autograph, and the name. And the payment receiving office original validation room. This is built with the state revenue transaction number, bank transaction number, or state revenue transaction number and postal transaction number by the payment receiving office. So you don't fill this. The tax payment. Tax payment and deposit are made in rupiah currency. Taxpayers who have obtained permission to maintain books in English and in US dollar currency shall pay PPH Article 25, PPH Article 29, and final PPH, which are self-paid by the taxpayer, as well as tax assessment letters and tax collection letters issued in dollar currency. If a taxpayer with this criteria pays tax in rupiah currency, it must be converted to the exchange rate determined by the decree of the Minister of Finance. This is for installment and delay. Installment and delays in paying tax can occur due to tax collection letter, underpaid tax assessment, and underpaid tax assessment addition, correction, and objection decision letter, appeal decision, and PPH Article 29. Requirement is for submitting an application for installment and delaying payments are you should submit it in writing to the Director General of Taxes and submit it a maximum of 9 days before the due date of payment, except taxpayer experience circumstance beyond their control. Then the last one is along with the reason and the amount of payment requested for installment or a decision delay is given a maximum of 7 days after the complete application is received. If term time has elapsed, the application is deemed accepted. Okay, guys, that's all for me, and bye.
Alright, now we will discuss about cutters and collectors. Cutters can mean cutting or reducing payment related to the amount received, or it can also be said to be the basis for imposition of taxes or dasar pengenaan pajak atau DPP. Tax cutters is usually carried out by the income party or the paying party, and the types of the tax cutters are Income Tax Article 4, Paragraph 2, Income Tax Article 21, also 26, Income Tax Article 23, and Income Tax Article 15. Right. The next one is collectors. Collectors can mean collect or add anything related to the amount of the bill or the amount that should be received for, for the tax base or dasar pengenaan pajak atau DPP. Tax collection is carried out by the recipient of income or the party receiving the payment. However, under certain conditions, it is carried out by the income provider. For example, the collection of Article 22 income tax is carried out by the government treasurer. The types of taxes collector is value-added tax or PPN and sales tax on luxury goods or PPNBM, as well as income tax Article 22. After we make and we have number identity taxpayer, we have an obligation to report our reporting letter or surat pemberitahuan atau SPT. So, what is SPT? SPT is a letter used by taxpayer to report the calculation and or payment of taxes, tax object and or non-tax objects, and or asset and liabilities according to the provision of tax law and regulation. So I divided the function of SPT to three party. First one is income taxpayer. Second one is business entity or taxable entrepreneur. The last one is cutters or tax collectors. The function of SPT for income taxpayers is as a means to report and account for the calculation of the actual amount of tax owed and to report on first, payment or settlement of taxes that have been carried out by themselves and or through withholding or collection or other parties in one fiscal year or part of fiscal year. The second one, income, which is a tax object and or isn't tax object. The third one is assets and liabilities. The fourth one is payment from withholding or collector regarding withholding or collection individual or other entity tax in one tax period accordance with the provision applicable tax law and regulation. Now for a taxable entrepreneur or business entity, the function of the tax return is as a means to report and account for the calculation of the amount of value-added tax or VAT or PPN and sales tax on luxury goods or PPNBM that is actually out and to report on first crediting input tax against output tax. The second one is tax payments or settlements that have been carried out by the taxable entrepreneur and or through other parties within one tax period in accordance with the provisions of the taxation law and regulations. For withholding or tax collectors, the function of the tax return is as follow means to report and account for taxes withheld or collected and deposit. The SPT can be distinguished as follow. First, periodic SPT, namely SPT which is used to report on monthly tax payment. Period SPT consists of SPT masa income tax article number 21, number 22, number 23, and article number 26. Periodic SPT income tax article number 15, periodic income tax Periodic SPT Income Tax Article number 4, paragraph 2. Periodic SPT VAT and sales tax on luxury goods. Periodic SPT VAT and sales tax on luxury goods for collectors. And then the second one is annual SPT, namely SPT used for reporting annual. Annual SPT consists of first one, annual SPT income tax for business entity. Second one is annual SPT income tax for business entity who are permitted to maintain books in English and in US dollars. The third one is annual SPT income tax for individual taxpayer who have income from independent business or work that maintains books or norms for calculating net income from one or more employers who are subject to final and or final income tax and from other income. The fourth one is SPT income tax for individual taxpayer who have income from one or more employers in other countries and who are subject to final and or final income tax. The last one is annual SPT income tax for individual taxpayer who have income from one employers and have no other income except bank interest and or cooperative interest. Now, we will discuss about payment and reporting deadline. The first one is income tax article number 21. Payment deadline is 10 of the following month. Reporting deadline is 20 days after the end of the tax period. The second one is income tax article number 23, also 26. The payment deadline is 10 of the following month and the reporting deadline is 20 days after the end of the tax period. The third one is income tax article number 25. The payment deadline is 15 of the following month and the reporting deadline is 20 days after the end of the tax period. Right, the fourth one is income tax article number 22, VAT and sales tax on luxury goods by Directorate General of Custom and Excise. The payment deadline is 1 day after collection and the reporting deadline is 7 days after payment. The next one is income tax article number 22 for government treasurer. The payment deadline is on the same day as the delivery of the goods. The reporting deadline is 14 of the following month. The next one is income tax article number 22 for Pertamina. The payment deadline is before payment of delivery order and the reporting deadline is no later than the 20 after the end of the tax period. After the end of the tax period. The next one is income tax article number 22 for curtain collector. The payment deadline is 10 of the following month and reporting deadline at 20 days after the end of the tax period. The next one is income tax article 4 paragraph 2. The payment deadline on 10 of the following month and reporting deadline on 20 days after the end of the tax period. The next one is VAT and sales tax on luxury goods for taxable employers. The payment deadline on the end of the following month before the submission of the SPT and the reporting deadline is on the end of the tax period. For VAT and sales tax on luxury goods for treasurer, the payment deadline is on 17th of the following month, and the reporting deadline is on 20 days after the end of the tax period. The next one is VAT and sales tax on luxury goods for non-treasurer collectors. The payment deadline is on 10 of the following month, and the reporting deadline is on 20 days after the end of the tax period. The next one is individual income taxpayer. The payment deadline is on 25 days of the third month after the end of the taxpayer, and reporting deadline is no later than 3 months after the end of the tax year. The last one is business entity income taxpayer. The payment deadline is on 25 days of the fourth month after the end of the tax year, and the reporting deadline is on no later than 4 months after the end of the year. Alright. If the taxpayer, whether individual or corporate, turns out to be unable to submit the tax return or SPT within the stipulated time period due to the breadth of business activities and technical problems in the preparation of financial statement, or other reasons that make it difficult to meet the deadline for completion and require concession for the limit specific time, taxpayer may extend the submission of the annual income tax reporting or SPT by submitting a written notification or by other means, for example, electronic notification to the Director General of Taxes. The maximum period of time is 2 months. If it is up to the deadline for this extension, the SPT hasn't yet been submitted, a warning letter may be issued. SPT is considered not submitted if first, notification letter is not signed. The second one is notification letter is not fully attached with information and or documents message time set. The third one is the tax return stating the overpayment is submitted after 3 years after the end of the tax period, part of the fiscal year and the taxpayer after the and tax has been reprimanded in writing. The fourth one is the tax return is submitted after the Director General of Taxes has audit or issue a tax assessment letter.
I will continue to explain about form and content of tax return. Basically, the tax return is divided into two. The first is annual tax return. Annual tax return is tax return for a fiscal year or part of a fiscal year. Second is period tax return. Period tax return is tax return for a tax period. Based on PMK nomor 243 atau PMK nomor 3 tahun 2014, the contents of the VAT period tax return must contain tax type, the name of taxpayer and their NPWP or taxpayer identification number, the signature of the taxpayer's proxy, number of submission, amount of tax imposition base, amount of expense tax, the amount of input tax that can be credited, amount of tax under overpayment, deposit date, and other data related to taxpayers' business activities. There are 5 procedures for filing and submitting tax returns. The first one is taxpayers are required to fill out and submit the tax return correctly, completely, clearly, and they must sign in. Next, the corporate taxpayer notification letter must be signed by the management or board of directors. Also, if the taxpayer appoints a proxy with a special power of attorney to fill out and sign the tax return, The special power of attorney must be attached to the notification letter. Next, annual income tax returns for taxpayers who are required to keep books of account must be accompanied by a financial statement in the form of a balance sheet, an income statement, as well as other information required to calculate the amount of taxable income. And the last one, in the event that the financial statements are audited by a public accountant but are not attached to the notification letter, the notification letter is considered incomplete and unclear, so the notification letter is considered not delivered. Next is about tax return correction. Taxpayers of their own violation can correct the notification letter that has been submitted by submitting a written statement on the condition that the Director General of Taxes has not taken any audit action. Even though the Director General of Taxes, after conducting an audit on the condition that the Director General of Taxes has not issued a tax assessment letter, the taxpayer without awareness may result in accrued taxes become more or less, loss based on the provision of taxation becomes smaller or larger, the amount of property becomes greater or less, and the amount of capital becomes larger or smaller, and the inspection process continues. The last one is about electronic tax return reporting or e-filing. Annual tax returns can be submitted electronically or online and in real time via the internet on the DJP website www.djponline.pajak.go.id. Taxpayers of state civil servants, members of the National Police, and members of the TNI are required to submit the 2015 annual tax return for 2015 income tax by online. The steps of filling out tax returns online are the same as manually filling in the tax returns in form of a question or uploading a tax return file that has been filled in manually. And also you can watch this 30 seconds video I share for you about e-filing from Kementerian Keuangan.
Kenapa sih, Tok?
Ini nih, aku belum lapor SPT-ku.
Makanya, pakai e-filing nggak perlu repot-repot isi formulir SPT dan lapor ke kantor pajak.
Dengan e-filing, kita bisa mengisi SPT
Kapan aja
dan di mana aja.
Sekarang DJP sudah memberikan fasilitas yang memudahkan kita dalam melaporkan SPT tahunan pajak penghasilan melalui e-filing.
Kami juga pakai e-filing. Mudah, cepat,
dan aman.
Aman, lapor pajak online.
So that's the end of our material. Thank you for your attention and sorry for the mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.